Today, we're talking about 3 tips for great storytelling, and these ideas apply to the smallest personal project to the most epic Hollywood blockbuster and everything in between. If you use these ideas well, your audience will hang on every word you say and on every second of your piece. The first tip for storytelling: always set up your context. Explain where you or your characters are and what they're doing. Now, it might seem kind of like a basic idea, but I promise you, it's really easy to forget ideas that we take for granted, and next thing you know, the audience is still left with big questions like, what's going on? I'm confused, and they're gone. Tip number 2, plan the structure of your piece on purpose, usually in 3 parts. When you're telling a story or creating a video, it's really easy to say, hey, here's what the story is, let's just go. What happens very easily in that kind of a scenario is your story wanders, or your story doesn't have a point, or it just kind of stops. Now, we've been programmed ever since we were little kids to expect things to come in 3s, like ready, set, go, bump, set, spike, or in this case, beginning, middle, and end. Tip number 3 for great storytelling: constantly reveal new information. Growing up, it drove me nuts when people would tell a joke that had sections that repeated over and over and over and over, just like this whole big long list thing. And I was just like, yeah, I guess that's kind of the point of the joke, but it's not funny to me. And even back then, I was just like, please stop wasting my time. So when you're planning your projects, figure out exactly what elements you have, figure exactly where they go along the part of your story. And that will keep you from having to reuse material. Your story will be more engaging and your audience will stay more on board if you're constantly revealing new information.
So there's 3 primary tools that we have as storytellers. The first one is your voice. Our voice is something we intuitively use to tell our stories. And I think primarily the tools we use with our voice are volume, pitch, and intonation. The second tool is your body. What we can do with this is very, very, very subtle things for your body. All you need is just to move your eyes to change who the teller is, who the speaker is in the story. It can just be a slight shift of where you're standing. So my third tool and my favorite tool as a storyteller, it is our ability to listen to any story and make it our own. The value that you add by the merit of what you know and your experiences and your stories, which will never be like anybody else's stories in the whole wide world.
Okay, let's talk about what stories do to us. So because they're part of us, in other words, we evolved with stories, and so we're hardwired for stories. In other words, our brain is evolved to appreciate stories in a certain way to do what it's supposed to do. So at the core of a story is the meaning, the purpose of what it's supposed to do, which is to teach us a specific lesson, right? And everything else is the coding to make it entertaining. In other words, all comedy, the horror, the suspense, all those emotions that we talk about, that we love, that we pay money to see, are the sugar to make it entertaining. So in order to tell a good one, so you have to know how to make it entertaining. That's part of it. But you also can't miss that kernel, which is the meaning. Why that story? What are you trying to say with that story? What's the message you're trying to say? So you have to know that because stories are lessons for us, and the only way we could relate and the only way we could absorb that message is to see someone experiencing what we're supposed to learn. When we watch something, when we watch a character in the screen going through something, our brain is thinking that we're doing it. So you're experiencing what's going on in the screen. And if a character is struggling to accomplish something, by default, you're watching this, and in a subconscious level, you are learning what the character is learning. So for me, great stories are about teaching us how to live. And the way to do that is by showing a character who changes, who transforms. That transformation, because change is so difficult for us in real life, we need to see a character accomplishing that change to see how they did it. And that's how we learn.